All right, so this afternoon we are joined by Miss Barb Nash, who is running for House District 124 down in Beaufort County. Ms. Nash, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. And so just to start out, we want to make sure our members get to know a little bit about you and your background. So if you could share with us a little bit about how your personal and professional backgrounds have shaped your views on the importance of education in South Carolina.
Well, I am a product of a public education system, not here in South Carolina, but in another state. And I am an advanced practice registered nurse. I am also nursing faculty at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. So I have a great value of education. My career, my life would not be where it is. I would not be doing what I am doing or doing what I love if it hadn't been for a good foundational public education. And I have been made aware of and have observed both on the elementary level and through K through 12 that there are some deficiencies that need to be corrected or addressed, and also by being the recipient of some of the students who are a product of that system and seeing how much work I need to do to bring them up to standards. So I feel very strongly, I am a strong supporter of a robust public education system.
Well, our members are obviously strong supporters of robust public education as well, and we believe that the bedrock of a robust system are the teachers in the classroom. But unfortunately, our state is experiencing a teaching shortage crisis with over 6,000 teachers leaving our classrooms last year and hundreds of vacancies in classrooms to start the year. As a member of the General Assembly, what steps would you take to try to recruit and retain the very best teaching talent to South Carolina's classrooms?
Well, I would like to make a little comparison to start with. I see similarities between the nursing profession and the educational profession and some of the challenges we both face. And I also see that even though I am a first-time candidate, I am not new to the legislature. I was president of the Ohio Nurses Association. I represented 180, almost 190,000 nurses, and I was their voice in their face at the State House. And I know that legislators do not like to make sweeping reform. It's incremental little steps. So in order to answer the question, what would I do as a legislator? I cannot legislate values, but I could legislate some measures that might have an impact or a change on education. One is we need to fully fund the education system in South Carolina. I don't know how we can attract and retain qualified professional teachers if we are not competitive in the marketplace with both a salary and a benefits package that would attract people to come here. I am aware that many teachers come, get a few years under their belt, and use that as a stepping stone to go somewhere else. And we have students who want to learn. We have teachers who want to teach, and we have very little incentive or reward for them to come here and stay here. So I would like to see Act 388 be repealed and replaced. Do I have a magic way of funding? I'm on the flight plan for
Hey, hearing air travel in the year 2020 is actually an encouraging sign of life. So
but they're military planes, so. Do I have a magic formula for what I would like to see replace Act 388? not at this point. No, I don't. But while it is still there, it needs to be fully funded. And those dollars need to get pushed down to the classroom. But we need to have competitive salaries and benefits, period.
Well, when you talk about funding, that brings to the surface a big issue in South Carolina, which is inequities across our school districts. Our state has struggled for generations with ensuring that every child, regardless of zip code, has access to the same quality education. Um, Obviously, funding is a big component of that. As a member of the General Assembly, is there any other steps that you think our state should be taking in order to really advance educational equity so that no matter where a child lives, they have access to the same quality of education?
Well, we can start with something as basic as expanding the broadband, making that accessible to everyone throughout the state, to students throughout the state. But if we look at a funding formula that is based on per pupil, I think that would help in terms of getting that equity across the state. We know right here in Beaufort County, we're considered a wealthy county, and yet the disparities are incredible between the public education and the private or parochial education. And there are problems here, no denying. I cannot imagine what happens in the counties inland. And I've heard that comment, that description of the corridor of shame. And that is so unfair. That is such a disservice, a detriment, not only to those individual children, but to the state as a whole. A quality education, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but to have the consistent rank of being 45 or 48 or whatever number it happens to be this time in education in the United States. I've got another plane going over.
We appreciate the military service during this call as well.
Once they start taking off, it's usually pretty
Sure.
consistent. I understand that South Carolina was criticized or dinged for quite a while because of the low high school graduation rate. And in response to that, they made it easier for students to graduate. And I understand that we have students that graduate who have a second or third grade reading level. You cannot be successful in life with a second or third grade reading level, comprehension, understanding. And having a well-educated populace, it improves the economic status of the state. It brings more business and industry to the state. It improves the health of the state, and it would improve opportunities in those other counties for businesses to look at. Maybe they would locate somewhere where we have well-educated people. So we need to spread the wealth. We need to make sure that every student has the same opportunity.
Well, and what you just described in terms of this idea of education as an economic driver is something that members of the General Assembly have talked about a lot in the last 2 years. And it was the impetus behind the quote unquote education reform legislation that tried to pass the House 2 years ago, passed the Senate this year, but hasn't passed both chambers. And earlier you said that you believe in incremental change through the legislative process.
No.
Oh, okay. You said that
I said that's what usually happens.
Okay. Well, what didn't happen with the education reform bill, it wasn't incremental. It was everything and all comprehensive. So as a member of the General Assembly, when you look at issues of educational reform, how would you approach that? How should the legislature tackle holistic education reform in the next session?
Well, I understand the history, and I understand why it says in the state constitution that the state is required to provide a minimal education. I understand why that's there. I would like to turn things upside down on its head and say, South Carolina will become #1 in the nation for education. Let's make it #1 and let's set a goal, a date. Let's set measurements, metrics that we can measure and work towards improving the entire educational system. Do I have the expertise for that? No, but I have the vision, and I'm a big picture person, and I certainly would rely on the input of teachers who have the expertise. So I would want to say, why would we want to constantly be ranked number 48th? Why not shoot for #1? If we shoot for the stars and land on the moon, we're further ahead. But that requires a whole different lens to look at education than saying, okay, we're going to do educational reform and we're going to take these bits and pieces and what have you, and we're going to tweak this and we're going to change that. It takes a different lens to look at what do we have to do to make the entire South Carolina public education system the best it can be. #1.
Well, one other issue that's been in the news with schools hasn't been related to public education. It's been private because Governor McMaster is attempting to take $32 million in federal relief funds to create a private school scholarship program. And he has said that he hopes the General Assembly establishes a permanent version of that program in the coming legislative session. So if elected, and if the governor comes in his State of the State address and asks for the creation of a permanent scholarship program using public dollars for private schools, what would your position and response be?
I am adamantly opposed to that, adamantly opposed to voucher systems. I am a firm believer of the separation of church and state, and I feel that if I'm paying, anyone's paying taxpayer dollars into the public education system, those dollars need to stay there. Now, I have no problem with private schools. If you want your child to go to a private school and you can afford to do that, then please go right ahead. But I don't think it should be at the expense, at the cost of the public education. That is robbing those students of their opportunity or what their needs are in order to accomplish their education. So I am greatly opposed to using taxpayer dollars to fund private schools or parochial schools.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, but I want to make sure that you get to share everything you want to with our members. So is there anything we haven't discussed that you want to make sure that they're aware of before Election Day?
Well, I'm the mother to a 3rd grade teacher who's taught 3rd grade in an inner city school for many years. I have listened to her in terms of the challenges she's had to face. I have witnessed what is expected of teachers. I believe that this business of needing to do more with less is something that we share in the healthcare field also. I think that we shoot ourselves in the foot when we don't provide teachers with the support personnel that they need. I believe that every school needs a school nurse. The complex healthcare problems that students come to school with these days cannot be attended by the teacher, the school secretary, or in some cases, I have heard horror stories of the school janitor being the one administering insulin to a diabetic child. We have students who have such complex needs that heretofore would have been self-selected out of the classroom. And for a teacher to have to deal with the psychosocial, emotional, physical needs while trying to teach is just an impossibility. And so I think we need to build that support around teachers and work as a team to help these students to reach their educational goals. And I would, as an advanced practice nurse, like to see some of the legislation that surrounds advanced practice nursing in the state of South Carolina to be removed so that there can be full practice authority. And perhaps we could marry, like some of these counties that do not have any primary healthcare providers. If we could provide a advanced practice nurse with a, just, I like to dream, a module on school grounds that house that nurse, that counselor, that guidance counselor, the various and sundry support people, that we could link the community and we could link the school and we could provide services to folks in that community and strengthen the bond with the school so that teachers can teach and so that healthcare professionals can take care of a lot of those needs. That's my big, hairy, audacious goal.
But there are places that are doing that. I have a friend who's a principal in Baltimore at an elementary school that has wraparound services, exactly like you said. The dental office is in the school. There's
Yep.
So I like the dreaming big because that's what our kids need. Well,
And they need us to help them remove as many barriers to that dream as we possibly can.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share with our members this afternoon. We appreciate your service and your willingness to share, and we wish you all the best this fall.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.